Darius had spent centuries lurking in the darkness, a creature of the night bound by the cruel laws of his kind. His existence was a lonely one, filled with eternal hunger, endless nights, and an aching void in his heart. He had once believed that vampires were incapable of love, for their hearts had long since stopped beating. That belief shattered the moment he laid eyes on Amara. She wasn't just a fairy, she was the embodiment of sunlight itself. Her wings shimmered like golden silk, her hair flowed like liquid gold, and her laughter carried the warmth of 1,000 dawns. Whenever she moved, tiny orbs of light danced in her wake, as if the stars themselves had come down to follow her. She was radiant, mesmerizing, and everything Darius could never touch. From the shadows of the ancient forest, he watched her. Night after night, he stood hidden beneath the great oak trees, spellbound by her presence. But he dared not step forward. Even from a distance, her glow sent painful tingles across his skin, reminding him of his curse. Sunlight was death to his kind, and Amara was made of nothing else. But love does not obey reason. It does not care for curses or warnings. It simply exists, growing stronger with each heartbeat, even in the heart of a vampire who should have none. And so, Darius found himself drawn closer, no matter the cost. One evening, as Amara danced upon the dewdrops of the forest, she noticed something, or rather, someone, hidden within the trees. Her golden eyes narrowed as she sensed the presence of a being unlike any she had encountered before. "Who's there?" she called, her voice like a melody that stirred the wind. Darius remained silent, pressing himself against the cold bark of an old willow tree. But Amara was not one to be ignored. She fluttered closer, her glow illuminating the darkness around her. And then she saw him. He was unlike anything she had ever witnessed, a man carved from shadows, his features sharp and cold, his eyes dark as the midnight sky. But what intrigued her most was not his appearance. It was the sorrow that clung to him like a heavy cloak, the longing in his gaze as he looked at her, as if she were something both sacred and forbidden. You are the one who watches me," she whispered, tilting her head. Darius took a slow step backward, his skin beginning to smoke where the light touched him. He winced but did not flee. "I am cursed," he murmured. "I should not be here. And yet, you always are." A silence stretched between them, fragile yet powerful. Amara could feel his pain, his yearning, and the battle raging within him. He wanted her, but he could not have her. He wanted to be near her, but the very essence of her being was his destruction. For days, they met like this, her at the edge of the light, him lurking just beyond its reach. They spoke in whispers, exchanged stories of their worlds, and learned the intricacies of each other's souls. And with every moment spent together, Amara found herself falling for the vampire who could never touch her. But love does not wait for permission. It does not ask for logic. It simply grows, defying all rules. Darius's suffering deepened with each passing night. The more he loved Amara, the more he realized the cruelty of fate. He longed to hold her, to feel the warmth of her light against his skin, but even the thought of it was impossible. One evening, as the moon cast silver streaks across the forest, Amara found him seated upon a jagged rock, his head in his hands. "Darius," she called softly, but he did not look up. She floated closer, keeping her glow dim so as not to hurt him. The sorrow on his face was unbearable. "I can never love you in the way you deserve," he whispered. "I am bound to the darkness, and you are the light. Every moment I spend near you is agony, and yet I cannot stay away." Amara's heart clenched. She reached out, but he flinched as the faintest touch of her warmth seared his skin. The pain in his eyes was deeper than any wound. "Then we must stop this," she said, though the words felt like a knife in her own heart. Darius closed his eyes. Yes, but neither of them moved. Because love does not obey goodbyes. It does not care for what is possible or impossible. It simply aches, burns, and refuses to die. That night, Amara made a choice. She flew to the highest peak of the fairy realm, where the elders guarded the secrets of ancient magic. There, she pleaded for a way for love to defy nature itself. The elders listened, their faces grave. Finally, one of them spoke. "There is a way," the elder fairy said. "But it will cost you your light." Amara's breath hitched. "My light, if you wish to be with him, you must dim your glow," the elder continued. "You must become something less than what you are. No longer the embodiment of sunlight, but a mere shadow of it." Amara's hands trembled. Her light was her essence, her very soul. To lose it would be to change forever. But she thought of Darius, of his pain, his loneliness. She thought of what it would feel like to finally touch him, to hold him, to love him without fear. And she knew what she had to do. That night, Darius sat in the depths of his cave, his heart hollow with grief. He had convinced himself that he would never see Amara again. But then, the cave entrance filled with a dim glow. Not blinding, not burning, just a soft, gentle shimmer. And there she stood, no longer a radiant beacon of sunlight, but a fairy cloaked in twilight. Her golden glow had faded to a soft silver, her wings no longer bright but glowing faintly like the last light of dusk. She was still beautiful, achingly so. But she was different. Amara, what have you done? Darius whispered, standing in disbelief. I chose you, she said simply. I let my light fade, so I could be with you. Darius trembled. He reached out, expecting pain, expecting the familiar burn. But there was none. For the first time, his fingers brushed against her skin. Warm, soft, real. A choked sob escaped him as he pulled her into his arms, holding her close, feeling the weight of her against him. She clung to him, burying her face in his chest, their hearts finally beating as one. But deep inside, Amara knew what she had sacrificed. She had dimmed her own light for love. And love should never make you fade. It should make you shine. Amara and Darius lived together, finally able to touch, to love, to exist without pain. But as time passed, Amara felt the change within her. She was no longer the fairy she once was. Her glow had dimmed, and with it, a piece of her soul had vanished. And though Darius loved her more than anything, he knew the truth. She had given up too much. Because love should never ask you to become less of yourself. True love should let you shine brighter. And so, one night, with tears in his eyes, Darius made a choice of his own. He sought the elders. He begged them for a way to give Amara back her light. And in the end, he stepped into the sun. For the first time, his body burned. But he did not scream. Because love was not about taking. It was about giving. And as the first light of dawn touched his skin, he smiled. Because in the end, he had given her back what she had lost. And that was the truest love of all.